Welcome back to Forbes Riley's Favorite Tips for Success. I've got one that's going to knock your socks off. You want to be really successful? Do this one thing. Turn off the news. What? How dare you say that? Let me share something with you about the news. Most of it, especially local news, is really bad. And it's very depressing. And you watch it first thing in the morning or last thing at night before you go to bed. These are very precious times in your brain to be formulating ideas, being positive, and that's not the first thing you want to hear. So let's just go on a news diet. I'm not saying turn it off forever, but maybe give me 4 weeks, okay? Click, turn off the news. Well, what then do you fill that hole with? Click, turn on some inspirational, motivational people. Some of my favorite, Zig Ziglar. Oh, have you ever watched him? He's got great ideas. John Maxwell, Les Brown, Marianne Williamson. The list is enormous. Choose any one of them. Put that into your head. Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. If you like to read a book, that's a good time to do it instead of the newspaper. Instead of worrying about all the things around the world, which are always terrible. That's why they sell newspapers. I want to hear inspirational and motivational. So then the next thing that you do is, how do you get better? Well, you ever put money in the bank? Yeah. You do that because the interest grows. Otherwise, you could put it under your mattress. Well, when you start to invest in yourself, things start to grow and change. What you focus on expands. So if you're focused on all the negative, puny, petty problems and work, guess what? That's all you talk about. That's all you are. If you take and you turn that on its head and you look and focus on things that are amazing, how do I achieve? How do I give back? How do I create? Then that's what indeed you're focused. You can't do it all. Your brain just doesn't let you do that. In fact, think about this. Pitch black room, right? You got one flashlight. You walk into the room. You shine it that way. There's a pile of dog poop over there. You think this is a pretty crappy room, huh? Well, I walked in that same room and I took my flashlight and I shined it over there, and there's a pile of gold. I think this is a pretty extraordinary room. Turns out we're in the exact same room. Now, if you've never heard any of this again, ever, you're going to want to watch this again. Because you go, wow, wait a second, what did she just say? That turn off the news and invest in yourself. By the way, when you start to invest in yourself, it's exponential. Here's a couple of ways that I've invested in myself. I go to seminars. Some of these are very expensive. They're thousands of dollars. Why would you do that for a couple of days? Because every time I get myself in one of those rooms, every time I invest in myself, every time I read a good book or I hear a good speech, something in me explodes and changes, and usually it equates to money. Some idea I have is put into motion. So every day and every way, I spend 15 minutes when I wake up reading or listening to something. Most of it's free. Go to YouTube. All those speeches are right there. You live in an amazing time. The most important thing, though, is that you take advantage of it. And then my question is, do you have a coach? Oh, you're doing well enough you don't need a coach, huh? Let me ask you a question. Have you heard of Serena Williams? Yeah, pretty good tennis player. No, she's the world's greatest tennis player. I know her. She and I are in business together with a Cool Towel product at Home Shopping. She has a tennis coach. Oh, baby, I wouldn't want to be that person. How do you coach the very best in the world? Because you're not her. That's why anybody has a coach. That's why Kobe Bryant has a coach. It's somebody who sees the game from a different perspective and helps you maneuver along and makes you what? Makes you better. So now you've invested in a coach. You're reading and listening to good material. Now the next thing you do, you want to invest in a mastermind. Oh, a couple of years ago, I didn't know what that word meant. A mastermind is when like-minded people get together, hopefully of even different perspectives, different jobs. You get to talk about what you're up to and people give you their feedback and their ideas. That is one of the most powerful life and business things I have ever done, was to invest in a mastermind, in seminars, in a coach. Didn't we start out today talking about the definition of success? Yeah. If you want that, you're going to take your game to a whole nother level. And that is my tip for the day.
Welcome to the Invention Stories Podcast, where we share stories of inventors who turn their idea into a product. Please visit our website at www.inventionstories.com. And now, from the Invention Stories Podcast World Headquarters Studios in Morro Bay, California, is our host, Robert Baer.
Welcome to the Invention Stories Podcast. I am your host, Robert Baer, and thank you for listening. This is Episode 1, interview with our special guest, Forbes Riley. The audio you've just listened to was from a video in Forbes Riley's e-newsletter. I believe every word in this video and its message inspired me to watch some of our other YouTube videos, all time well spent, and I encourage you to do the same. So whether you're an inventor or have an idea for an invention, Forbes Riley has something to offer. With every article I read and every video I watched, I learned something important about myself, and I'm energized with optimism. For this reason, she was my first and only choice for our very first episode. The 2010 National Fitness Hall of Fame inductee, Forbes Riley, is an award-winning TV host, author, motivational speaker, and life coach to celebrities and CEOs. She has helped millions take positive action in their own lives by sharing her passion for an unshakable belief in the impact a healthy lifestyle can make in your life. It gives me great joy to introduce the first guest on our first episode, Forbes Riley. Forbes, welcome to the Invention Stories Podcast. You are the sum of the obstacles you overcome. I'd like to know why this saying or quote means so much to you, but first, I would like you to share with our listeners about your earliest experiences with inventors and inventions.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me to be the first guest on your show. That's quite an honor, and I don't take that lightly. I also never think it's a waste of time. Anytime I have a chance to communicate ideas, messages, and insights into what I've managed to make a very nice living at my entire life. So we will get to my product, but before that, I want to invite in a very special person who started me on this whole path, and that would be my dad. My dad was a serial inventor. He was one of those guys who at the kitchen table would take apart an alarm clock just to see the inner workings and put it back. And I have a whole list of his inventions that he created, some of which none of them made it to market, but they were some of the most amazing, bizarre things you've ever seen. So for example, he took a half a garbage can, a lawnmower engine, and some paper mache, and he made my sister and I, when we were kids, a go-kart and decorated it like Batman. And it actually went 4 miles an hour down the road, and we were the odd family who had the go-kart, Batman wheel go-kart. He also made this crazy Lazy Susan. So get this, in our bathroom growing up, we had a very small house. And we had made one bathroom for 4 of us. But the top of the medicine cabinet butted up against the attic. And it was about 4 foot high and 4 foot deep. And he took this Lazy Susan and he actually made a little thing that you could turn, but remember, it's 4 feet high. And so that we each had like a pie section of this medicine cabinet, and in the center was hollow. And oddly enough, you could crawl over the sink as a kid and get into the medicine cabinet. Now imagine how odd that was when I told my kids at school, my friends at school, what I had done. And then to make matters worse, my dad was a magician, and I loved doing magic tricks with him. And I grew up as a very awkward, goofy kid. People look at me now and they say what they will, and I think I look pretty good now. But at 8 years old, I ran into a baseball bat, and my nose grew kind of funny off the side of my face. I'd sucked my thumb forever as a kid, and so I had these buck teeth. And the orthodontist from hell, who started me off with a full set of braces at age 8. And then for the next 8 years, I had railroad tracks. I mean, can you imagine all through your teenage years, I had a full set of braces. And to make matters worse, he put a little tongue thruster so I wouldn't keep pushing out my teeth. And so for a little while, I talked like this. And so now I got a broken nose, and I also had frizzy hair growing up on Long Island. Fast food had just hit town, so I was a little overweight. My mom was always rather large, and I was not a very popular kid. Which when you look at me now, I'm spending all this time on TV, you go, wow, that was interesting. And then my dad was this goofy inventor whose garage looked like the Willy Wonka of inventions. And then there was a thing at school where we read a book called The Thinker Blinker. And that was where one kid got inside of this refrigerator box, and another kid would stand outside and charge all of these kids 10 cents for a prediction. And the kid inside had a typewriter, and he would kind of like stick it through as though it was this magical answer machine. Well, my dad took that one step further. We had to create our own little thinker blinkers, and we actually made an electronic computer that had a schematic to it. Now you have to remember, I'm 8 years old. I'm in 4th grade, right? And I have to go to school with this thinker blinker that when you walked up to it would turn itself on, would answer yes, no, or maybe when you took the magnet that I had hidden in my ring and held it up against this magnetic relay that was stuck inside a silicone. I know I'm getting really technical, right? Imagine at 8 years old, I'm trying to explain to my classmates and teachers how I built this. So my passion for my dad, his level of inventions, kind of spurred a lot of what would later on be a good portion of my life. And the truth is, I'm not an inventor. I am a marketer. I'm a distributor. I'm a television personality. I brought a lot of people's inventions to the market via infomercials, but I am what every inventor needs. And that is somebody who listens to them, because inventors in my mind are people who sit in these dark rooms and these garages and attics and they imagine all these things that could fit into the world, but they don't necessarily have any skills to get them out to the world once they've done it. And so I think I'm an inventor's greatest shepherd into the light. So something I couldn't do for my dad.
Wow. You're listening to the Invention Stories Podcast. I am your host, Robert Bear, and today we have Forbes Riley with us, so let's get back to it. Forbes, did you ever consider bringing one of your father's inventions to the market? Would one of his inventions be a product that could be used today?
You're so sweet. I lost my dad about 15 years ago, and the gift that he gave me was, he was a blue-collar worker, and the crazy thing about him was when I was 14 years old, he worked on these giant printing presses that he not only invented, but he was engineer behind, and he slipped, and he cut the whole front of his hand off. And he spent 3 years in the hospital while they rebuilt his fingers and his hand, and 15 operations later. I have a huge passion for life. It doesn't happen to you, but it happens for you. And so if you believe like I do, and one of the quotes that you had mentioned that I say all the time about you're the sum of the obstacles you overcome. So as a kid, I grew up watching this amazing, innovative man being pretty much strapped to a bed for 3 years of my life, my entire teenage years. And so what were the lessons that I learned about that? And what were the frustrations that I saw in his heart about not getting things out to the world? But he also didn't think about the world the right way. When you're an inventor, and I really need all of your inventor people to listen to this part of it, it isn't about what you think the world needs as much as solving a problem that the world already has. So I don't know how the chia pet happened. I don't see any reason for a chia pet, but most inventions that hit mass critical are because people needed something, but they didn't know it. For example, when you're lying there watching TV and you want a cup of tea and it's cold outside, you don't realize that you'd like your blanket to have a hole in it so that you could reach through your blanket, and there's the Snuggie. A lot of funny inventions, but it kind of made sense. You can't sell people things they don't need. Now, there's caveats to that because nobody needs a fidget spinner, but maybe they do. Maybe in today's society, we do need something to play with and keep our mind off something. And so inventions that fit a need are the ones that come to light. Inventions that are something an inventor just wants will live in his garage because it takes a lot of money, time, energy, and expertise to get a product out to the world. So to that end, my dad at one point said, I was thinking about what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I was talking about being an actress and being a lawyer. And my dad said, wow, the people who make the most money in my world are the ones who sell printing, not the ones who make printing. You should be a salesperson. Those guys always make money. And I'm like, Dad, I don't want to sell anything. Well, ironically, that's what I ended up doing. And my first real job in that world, although I'd been an actress my whole life, I would have been very happy to have been Julia Roberts or Sandra Bullock. But I don't know if you noticed, neither one of those beautiful women are fighting for the little guy. And that seems to be the path that I'm truly on. And so to that end, I auditioned for this TV show, and it turned out to be a Body by Jay kind of concept. He had a whole network, and the audition was sell me this pen. Well, Robert, I don't want to sell anybody anything. So I looked at the pen, and I said, well, funny thing about pens. When my mom was in college, she used to write me these longhand notes, and I kept all of them, like 2.5 inches thick, these stacks of notes that were signed Love Mommy in purple ink. And I realized that a pen like this can reach out and touch somebody's heart. Well, I did not know at that moment my life would completely change. Jake of Body by Jake comes out of the production booth, holds my face and says, you're going to make me a lot of money. And what he realized and what he saw and what we did together for the next 5 years was we took every fitness invention, every health and wellness invention concept idea, and we brought it to market on a 24-hour network that he owned called Fit TV. It was the early days of cable. And if you go to YouTube, and by the way, a lot of the ways you can see about me is to go to YouTube, and if you type in Forbes Riley and Fit TV, and I will invite you guys to subscribe to my channel. I post videos all the time. There's about 15,000 of them. And that network, we sold every health and wellness product. I sold 1,500 different products in 5 years on the air. Huge education, because I tend to look at products not as what they are, but what they can do. Again, this is a really important thing for an inventor to listen to right now. I don't really care what widget you invented. It's irrelevant. It is what that widget does for somebody that makes them buy it. So think about it. I don't really care that a treadmill has a motor and it has a this. I mean, I do. You'll go through that. It has to have nice handles and a good da-da-da, and you have to plug it in. But the point is, it's only there because I want to lose weight. I don't want to walk outside in the snow and the rain. I want to walk in my house and get exercise. So you have to understand what the benefit to the person buying your invention is. And so to that end, no, I'm not going to shepherd any of my dad's inventions because they were personal things. They had no, they were fun for us, but people are not clamoring to get a go-kart made out of paper mache or a, 800-pound medicine cabinet that you can spin around. So a lot of my time I've spent in the early days is, I hate to see inventors waste their time. But having said that, I've also done 150, now I just booked 152 infomercials. So what has that taught me? Well, that is about taking products out to the world. And one of the things that I teach, and I would invite anyone listening to this, is to come take a course with me. One of the courses is called Crush It on Camera, how you really get your inventions out to the world. As an inventor, you should know, you not necessarily need to be the one or the face of your own product, but you need to understand how your thing, whatever your widget is, fits into the world. And I teach how every infomercial is sold. It is that you start out with a problem. What's the problem? Well, I've got wine in my white carpet. How do I get it out? I've gained 20 pounds. How do I lose it? I want to make money in real estate. What's the problem? And then you are the solution, or your product is the solution. And then you get testimonials. So even just having an invention, you need to also test drive it. You need to go out. By the way, you talked about my SpinGym, and I'll share how I got an invention out to the world that nobody thought they wanted on face value. But you need to, I've had people pitch me every day. I know all my inventors out there, you guys watch Shark Tank, and that's like the ultimate, oh my God, I get there. But all the people who get to that point and blow the deal because they don't know how to pitch it, or they don't really know what they have and how to speak about it, that's too bad. That's most inventors. So I'm going to let you guys invent whatever it is that you want, however you want to do it. Don't bankrupt don't mortgage your house for your invention. It never works out well. But you do need to get educated. You need to understand what the trademark laws are, what a patent, what a copyright. Do you need a patent? And you need to have all of that before you start. Unless you want to be like my dad and sit in your garage and never make a dime from your inventions, go for it. But if it's a business, if you think what you've got is worthwhile, you need to do some really powerful steps. And one of the things is, like I said, reach out to me. We coach this all the time. I have resources that involve how you get to market, how nowadays you can just market on the internet. You don't even need an infomercial, but you do need to understand how video works and how you sell it. And the other thing when I take a pitch is you also need to understand what else is in the market. I'll get some very naive inventors going, oh, I've got the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I would like to show them that in my closet, I have 4 other versions of exactly what you're pitching me. Do your homework. Odds are, given the way the world is, somebody else has thought about this as well. It's very rare somebody shows me something that no one's ever thought of. And in fact, if you look at the temperature of the climate of inventions, very often people will just change one thing and reinvent what's already out there and make it better. That counts as well. And so you need to really understand why you're doing this. What is it that you're doing? And if you'd like, I can share with you the journey of SpinGym. Would you like to hear that?
Oh, absolutely.
So I've had an opportunity to sell fitness products my entire career. I've worked on QVC, both here in this country, in England, in France, in Germany. And by the way, different cultures buy for different reasons. But I was looking for something that was mine. In fact, I had a resistance band when I was about 30-something, slip off my foot and literally shatter my nose. Yeah, twice my nose was broken. And I wanted a home exercise product. Also, it helps when you are inventing anything or doing anything to know your personal why. So if I would ask you, Robert, why are you doing a podcast?
I want to make a difference in the world. I like it when you ask why. I want my life to have meaning. I want my father to know that the love and the caring that he put into me was rewarded by my becoming a son that he would be proud of. So I'd like to help inventors take the next step, and I think there's something missing in the market. I'd like to share the invention story, the truth that happens between an idea and a product on the shelf. I want to be that somebody that helps make the world a better place.
Good. That's actually a very powerful why. And that's very specific. And so because of that, wanting to matter and wanting to bring inventors, you're doing a podcast. That makes total sense. And because you have a strong why, you will be committed to that focus. Many people, believe it or not, start something and have no idea what their why is. And the problem is, if you don't, you get a little lost. Why are you inventing it? Because you want to matter or you think your ideas are better? You need to understand what, and it always helps if you're doing it for somebody else. So case in point, I'm in London and a guy walks in and I'm on a mission to find some product that is mine, that is not what everyone else has. I've touched and felt most fitness products, and I don't really like all the little gadgets, and I don't need another treadmill or an elliptical or I don't know, what is it I wanted? And in walks a magician, as it has, he's a corporate magician, and he has this little product. Now, I did not invent the SpinGym. It is based on a 2,000-year-old Chinese toy. It is called a button on a string. And people have been pulling button on a string in third world countries as a toy. It is now actually being used as a centrifuge. The thing actually, it is, and he was using it in England as a de-stressor in the office. Well, I touched it the very first time, and given my background, I'm a massage therapist, licensed. I'm a Broadway dancer. I'm somebody who's fought her weight my entire life. I have sold 1,500 different fitness products. I'm kind of an expert. I'm even in the National Fitness Hall of Fame. And so I have some credibility. And I touched this thing, and I actually said to him, this is the greatest fitness product I've ever seen. And he said, I have no idea. I have no idea what you're talking about. It's an office de-stressor. I said, well, no, actually, it's not. It's way more than, well, I don't know what you were talking about, but you are Forbes Riley. And he'd said that he had sold some, but he was actually wanting to go back to being a corporate magician. And if I could sell 25,000 in my first year, I could have the company, just give him a small royalty. And that's exactly what I did. I took it home and I actually created, in a couple of months from there, every single exercise that you see today. I downloaded it out of my brain, thousands of things you could do with it, from stretching to Pilates to yoga, and the fact that you can do ab work and core work and arm. I mean, I was blown away by everything that came out of my head that's the part that I did invent. Everything that you do with a SpinGym is my creation. So I'm very proud of that. I've patented the use of a SpinGym. Anything fitness-wise is mine. And that came out of a lifetime of work and knowledge. And I'm so proud of that, I can't even tell you. I still to this day, 7 years from the day I invented it, turn to anybody, whether it was in the hot tub over the weekend and we sold 6 of them to all the ladies in the hot tub, to on a train, on a plane. I think this is the greatest fitness product on the planet. And I do think I'm right. Stanford University just did a study on this, about how it works and how it actually fires every single muscle and fiber between your two hands through your body. Nothing on the planet does this. It harnesses the value of physics and inertia. And there's a lot to this that is amazing. And I'm continuing to get it out to the world. It gets cardio for people in wheelchairs. It is amazing for vets, for stroke victims, for autism. Let me tell you something. My biggest mission now is to really get this out in the biggest way possible. But I have sold 2 million of these, primarily because I had an outlet to home shopping, but I have to share with you. And on one day, this whole story will come out, but no one wanted a SpinGym. I invested a lot of time and a lot of money. And I went on a national reality show called Pitchmen. And if you see that on YouTube, I got my head handed to me. I was made to cry, told to go home, and that this would never work. Now, that's a little hard on national television. And I don't have enough of a backbone to think that I could have weathered that, honestly. But I woke up the next morning after that show aired, and I just found a videotape. Somebody videotaped my face watching what they did to me on TV. It wasn't very pretty, and it wasn't even real, but they were making a reality show, and I was literally the scapegoat of all of this. And I woke up, and my husband turned to me and said, so, what are you going to do now? I said, I'm going to make SpinGyms. He said, you're kidding me. He said, nobody thinks it's going to work. And I said to him, they're wrong. He said, what do you mean? He said, they can't all be wrong. I said, yes, they are. He said, but that's not, and by the way, I probably should have, when somebody says everybody's wrong, you might want to listen. But I already at that moment had a very clear vision that the people telling me that I was wrong were not women, and that men and women think differently, and that men at that point, this is 7 years ago, had no idea how important a woman's arms are to her self-esteem. And the journey of SpinGym and the amount of fighting and standing in customs for a week and having to black out 44,000 DVDs because we made a little trademark infringement 44,000 times. I've gone through hell and back to get this product out to the world. And I will tell you, if you're not prepared to do some of that, then don't even go on this journey. It is not easy. It is not cheap. I've watched being an inventor destroy marriages. Having a dream is challenging. However, there's both sides to that. If you have to do it, then by all means do it. If you're just dabbling, then you have a hobby, and that's okay too, but you need to understand and be realistic with yourself about what you're willing to do. And what I've learned through this journey, and I'm now a major motivational speaker around the world because of the hell that I have gone through And apparently this inner strength and ability to still survive and thrive has allowed me to master languaging, how you talk to yourself. I have a program called the Forbes Factor. Forbes Factor Live. I do this a couple of times around the country. I'm making it more available through Zoom so people don't have to necessarily fly in, but it's nice to do this in person. Because to have a community, and I honor you, Robert, for making the podcast happen, that this didn't exist before. Before the internet, most inventors were very lonely. There was no way to reach out. There was no way to test market something on Facebook. If you're an inventor and you want to understand how to market on Facebook or market through, funnel systems or have your own landing pages, you can do so, or even Amazon or eBay. Nowadays, you are your worst enemy. And what you need to do, whoever is listening to this right now, you need to focus on education. Do you know not only what your product is and does, but how anyone gets a product out to the world? So I'm proud of you for doing this podcast. I have a very close friend of mine who is the guru when it comes to getting a product into retail. I've partnered with her. Everyone says, oh, you should get on Shark Tank. Let me tell you something. One of my partners is Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. He was the original shark. They get about 75,000 pitches a year. 200 may get on the show. So please don't use that as a pipe dream because that's not going to be your reality. You can get a product out to market without all that. But do you know how it works? And I think people don't realize that the path of an inventor is not unlike the path of any other tradesman. You would not walk into somebody and say, hey, can I just fix your car? I've never really, I own a car and I played with a couple, but I'm just going to fix your car because I think I can. Or I'm going to go cut your hair because I have hair and a pair of scissors. That's how inventors are. Like, oh, I have a dream, I can get this out. No, there's an educational process that most inventors have no idea what they're doing. And you really owe it to yourself to listen to shows like this, to reach out to people like myself or anyone else in the space that's really helping you, because just because you have an idea doesn't mean it needs to be ever bought or sold or created. Make sense?